The Tom Daniel Show. Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show.
You're listening to The Tom Daniel Show, and I'm your host, Tom Daniel. Hey, today's episode marks something a little unusual in the life of a podcast, because this program is now 1 year old. That's kind of a big deal, not because just of longevity for its own sake, but because a year is long enough to see whether an idea can actually sustain itself. Long enough to know whether a way of listening, a way of thinking, and a way of talking about music and culture actually holds together over time. And long enough to see if I'm going to run out of ideas. Well, I didn't, and I still haven't. Therefore, in the spirit of fun and celebration, I want to take a song that you've known since childhood and ruin it. Yes, but gently, academically, and with love. This is an episode about a lullaby that every parent has sung, every baby has ignored, and every folklorist has stared at a little suspiciously. Rock-a-bye Baby. You know it. And then there are those lyrics. Rock-a-bye baby on the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall, and down will come baby, cradle and all. Man, this is the only lullaby in human history that ends with structural failure. And it raises just a few questions. Questions like, why is there a baby in a treetop? Why is everybody so calm about gravity? Who decided this was an appropriate song for bedtime? And did an 18th century parent confuse open meadow with vertical danger zone? Today, we're going to look at where this song actually comes from, what it really meant, and why it's not, I repeat, it is not a lullaby about infant catastrophe. So let's start by addressing the myth that refuses to die. Some people insist Rock-a-bye Baby is a coded warning about the dangers of putting infants in tree boughs, as if 18th century Europe was full of free-range treetop nurseries. Good grief. Other people say it refers to royal infants being violently overthrown because, everything British must somehow be about politics, even babies. And still others claim it's a Native American observation written by an English settler who saw indigenous mothers using cradle boards hung from tree branches. And a few people, including some Victorian authors with a flair for drama, insist the rhyme is a thinly veiled murder ballad. Let me reassure you. No reputable historian believes that the lullaby advocates, commemorates, or predicts infanticide. If it did, it wouldn't be a lullaby, it would be a ballad performed at Renaissance open mic night. The earliest printed record of Rock-a-bye Baby appears in 1765 in a book called Mother Goose's Melody. It already looked very close to the version that we know today, so it hasn't changed much over time. But here's the key. The original book contains a moral for the rhyme, and it's got nothing to do with baby safety. The moral reads exactly this: "This may serve as a warning to the proud and ambitious who climb too high, that they may fall at last." Ah. So the baby is not political, but the moral is. This was typical for that era. Editors often slapped moral lessons onto nonsense rhymes like a piece of duct tape meant to disguise the fact that children were actually enjoying themselves. Oh boy, can't have that. But that moral tells us something. The rhyme was probably understood as a metaphor, not a field report from a disastrous arbor nursery. And what about that Native American cradleboard theory? Now, this is the most persistent folk explanation, and it's actually really kind of interesting. Early American settlers sometimes did see indigenous mothers hang cradleboards from branches, letting the wind gently rock the infant to sleep. Now, the children were wrapped securely, horizontally, and at a safe height, not perched on a literal treetop like an egg in a bird's nest. But here's the problem with this theory. There is no evidence the song ever originated in America. The printed version we have comes from England, not the colonies. And indigenous cradleboards were not placed in tree tops, but in low branches or on stands. So the cradleboard explanation is evocative, but it's unsupported. It survives mainly because people love the idea that lullabies have ethnographic origins. But in this case, the timeline does not fit. Now, the leading scholarly view is this: Rockabye Baby is a satirical or metaphorical verse later reinterpreted as a lullaby. It may have begun as a humorous political allegory. England was only 10 years away from going to war with its American colonies. The 1765 edition of Mother Goose's Melody came out during a period of intense political instability for England. Constant conflicts over succession, infant mortality among the royals, and the precariousness of inheriting a throne. Now, if you lived in that era, you'd seen many cradles, meaning royal houses, wobble in the treetops of ambition. In this reading, the baby is a royal heir. The treetop is a throne reached by dangerous elevation. The wind is political turmoil. The fall is the collapse of dynasties. It's less "my infant fell into a ravine" and more "careful, kings and queens, power is unstable, and your bow may snap." This was actually common in the 18th century. Nursery rhymes often carried political barbs, from "Mary, Mary, quite contrary" to "Jack and Jill." But notice what happened over time. The metaphorical reading, the political backstory, was forgotten, but the melody stuck. The tune was what's important. And human beings, well, being human, we kept singing it to infants because the tune is actually kind of soothing, even if the lyrics are questionable. Which brings us to, why would anyone sing this to a baby? Parents have a long and storied tradition of singing unhelpful things to their children. In fact, one researcher proposed something called the lullaby paradox. Anything that sounds gentle will be accepted by a sleeping infant regardless of content. It doesn't matter if the singer is describing beauty, disaster, or livestock management. I remember an Adam Sandler movie where he reads the sports page to a little boy in a calm, soothing voice to get him to go to sleep. The point is, it doesn't matter what you sing to them, just so it's soothing. Many classic lullabies contain death threats, abandonment, violence, wolves, falling, more wolves. Rockabye Baby fits perfectly into this tradition. The tune is what calms the baby. The words distract the exhausted adult. A lullaby isn't really about what's being said. It's about the act of saying something, anything, until the world feels quieter. And everybody wins as long as gravity stays out of the way. You're listening to The Tom Daniels Show, and we'll be right back unless we fall out of a tree.
The Tom Daniels Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniels Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniels Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniels Show.
Welcome back to the Tom Daniels Show, and I can confidently predict that Mary Mac will not be falling out of a tree because Mary Mac is the world's most perfect band. We've been analyzing the lullaby known as Rockabye Baby, and now we should talk about the tree itself. Symbolism, not arborist negligence. Why is it a tree in the song? Trees in European poetry represent stability, life, growth, family lineage. But a tree top represents reaching too high, precarious positions, unsustainable elevation. It's the difference between roots and branches. One grounds you, the other one sways in the wind. So the tree top serves as a literary symbol of unstable privilege, not an endorsement of questionable childcare. The fall, therefore, isn't an accident. It's a moral metaphor. The message, what rises too high may fall too hard, which is not comforting but undeniably British. There are a few fringe explanations that deserve some honorable mention here. Number one, the Stuart Glorious Revolution theory. It claims that the baby is the heir of James II, and the rhyme predicts his political downfall. And it's a cool story. No evidence. Number two, the Scandalous Mistress theory. It suggests that the rhyme mocks a woman whose illegitimate child was vulnerable to court gossip. It was invented in the 19th century, but zero documentation. And number three, the wind is gunfire theory. Absolutely no comment from me. Folklorists love these because they're entertaining, but none withstand historical scrutiny. Rockabye Baby ultimately teaches us three things. Lullabies were often sung by tired adults who needed something rhythmic more than logical. Words mutate faster than melodies. The soothing tune outlived the metaphor. And humans love dark interpretations, even when the original wasn't all that dark to begin with. This is why teenagers whisper, "You know it's about a baby dying, right?" at slumber parties. But the most important takeaway is this. The song was never meant to frighten children. It was meant to remind adults that ambition, pride, and high perches all come with consequences. Babies just kind of inherited the tune. So if it's not about babies falling, why does it still sound so dark? Because the imagery fires up the imagination. On the treetop feels absurd enough to be humorous. When the wind blows adds drama. When the bough breaks introduces tension. And we all fall down. Oh, wait. Wrong rhyme. Sorry about that. But remember, the rhyme doesn't say the baby dies or even gets hurt or even wakes up. It simply says that the cradle falls, which in a metaphorical reading means the dynasty collapses. In the lullaby reading, it simply means the song ends. Only in modern retellings does the baby become a projectile. So after all this, what is Rockabye Baby? It's not a macabre survival tale. It's not a colonial ethnography. Not a guide for tree-based infant suspension. and not a horror story whispered by exhausted Victorian nursemaids. It is, at its core, a political metaphor that just lost its politics and survived on melody alone. If anything, the real miracle is that babies ever fell asleep to a song that implies imminent structural failure. But remember, a lullaby doesn't have to make sense. It just has to make the adult feel like they're actually accomplishing something. Thank you for joining me on the Tom Daniels Show, and tonight maybe your babies sleep soundly, may your treetops remain unoccupied and permanently zoned as a vertical danger zone, and may all your boughs be structurally certified. Keep listening, keep learning.
Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. Take a break from your usual routine and tune into the Tom Daniel Show. You'll discover the world of melodies and stories that you might not know. Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniel Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniel Show. What are you waiting for?